Show your love for Jug, Speed Cola, and Double Tap by picking up the Gone But Never Forgotten tea. A link is down below. The ending cutscene to Classified is here, and boy is it controversial. Now, not because of the content of this cutscene. In fact, it was quite predictable. It was controversial because of the means in which we had received the cutscene. In order to unlock the cutscene, what you need to do is play it around 150, at which point the cutscene begins. Originally, it was around 255, but Treyarch lowered it to 150 in a patch. They shaved off 105 rounds because they were feeling generous, I suppose. Earlier this afternoon, the Gaming Revolution and his team managed to glitch their way to round 150, and they received the cutscene. I don't want to discuss the ethics of what their team did. In fact, you can make the argument that we would have never received this cutscene unless somebody glitched their way to it, and it was just a matter of time before somebody did it. I don't care about that. I instead want to break down this cutscene and discuss it from a storyline perspective. There are a few notes I want to make before I show you the cutscene. This cutscene belongs to the Gaming Revolution and their team, hence the watermarks on screen, so go check out their channels, I guess. And this cutscene is in cartoon mode because they had flipped it to cartoon mode in an effort to prevent the game from crashing. So that's why it doesn't look as nice as other cutscenes. Regardless, here's the ending to Classified.
The Earth, we saw it destroyed, yet here we are.
It's more time travel bullshit, Tech. Just hasn't happened yet. Speaking of BS. How the hell did you get back in your body, Doc?
Does it matter, Dempsey?
I'll tell you what matter. Americans still give Nikolai his vodka. Is that your plan, Nikolai? To give up and drink yourself to oblivion? Or do you want to make a difference for once in your life?
You. Oh, Scheiße.
You four must come with us. In time, it will make sense. But now...
Intruders on the base. Hangar 4.
Now we must go, quickly. There is a war to be fought.
War? What kind of war?
A war unlike any you have ever seen. The Great War.
In order to fully understand this cutscene, you're going to want a little bit of context. So the Ultimus crew that we see in this cutscene is not the Ultimus crew that we've been playing as in-game. They are the Ultimus crew from the future. They're the ones who were on the moon, blew up the Earth, and then ended up back in what's known as Hangar 4 near Area 51. They are trapped within Area 4 as test subjects. Our best hints at where they come from are from the dialogue at the beginning when they say, "We saw the Earth destroyed, yet here we are." More time travel BS, and that's exactly what happened. They must have somehow at some point went on the teleporters and then got sent through space and time through a temporal rift and ended up in Classified, and they're stuck in Hangar 4 and they become used as test subjects. In fact, we learn a lot about this through a few of the audio logs that we find in Classified. They provide us a bit of context as to how our characters both ended up at Hangar 4 and how Richtofen re-entered his body.
This is Cornelius Purnell, report 639, August 3rd, 1963. Earlier today, while Dr. Schuster was performing test number 11, we had an unexpected arrival through the teleporter. We've been unable to verify what year they came from. Our struggle with temporal anomalies during teleportation is well documented, but we are certain of where they came from: the moon. This event alone is baffling enough and is without explanation. But it becomes downright absurd when you take into account that I know two of the four individuals. Corporal Tank Dempsey of the United States Marine Corps, who I knew personally and was declared KIA after a failed rescue op to recover Peter McCain. And Dr. Edward Richtofen from Group 935, who went missing weeks after we formalized the agreement to initiate Operation Stapler. I didn't recognize the other two, but they and Corporal Dempsey were in a delusional, near catatonic state. Medical evaluation shows they've suffered from excessive element 115 exposure. And quoting our medic, I'm not even sure how they're still alive. As for Dr. Richtofen, initially we believed him DOA. Upon closer examination, we discovered his body is very much alive. Just zero brain activity. How it came to be that these 4 men were on the
Overkill
moon,
has new
we
ability?
may never know.
Fortune smiles
However,
on this
for
weapon.
the immediate future, we'll be keeping them here at Groom Lake.
The only way
They
to
are
ensure the beasts
ideal
are truly
candidates
defeated
for additional
is to overdo it.
testing. This is Cornelius Purnell. Report 715, October 13th, 1963. I'm filing this report on behalf of Private Gordon. Private Gordon was working graveyard in Hangar 4, where our new test subjects are being kept. At 0300 this morning, Private Gordon reports a, quote, bright blue oval-shaped light beam materialized in the room, end quote. Out of said light beam stepped, and I quote, a zombie dressed in a World War II German military uniform. This zombie did not interact with Private Gordon, but instead slowly walked up to the comatose body of Dr. Edward Richtofen, who, up until now, we've been unable to resuscitate. Private Gordon then observed this zombie touching the body of Dr. Richtofen, at which point the zombie turned to ash, and Dr. Richtofen immediately let out a guttural shriek and began cackling. I cannot verify Private Gordon's story, but what I can tell you is that as of this morning, Dr. Richtofen is very much alive, and he is very animated. So much so, we've since had to have him sedated.
So that sets up our characters being in Hangar 4, and they're pretty much in Hangar 4 the entire game. In fact, you can go near those hangars, throw grenades by them, and hear Tank Dempsey quotes. So that was always pretty interesting. And how does Primus get into this situation? Well, remember at the Blood of the Dead ending, Nikolai reads the Chronorium, and he essentially learns his true destiny. He discovers that he's the key. Because he's the last character left with a soul, he needs to be the one to set things right. He's important to this story and has essentially become now the de facto leader of Primus. They leave through the portals and they reappear at Classified. There's been a little bit of debate over whether or not they're actually coming from Blood of the Dead, but I think they are. The biggest hint is the fact that Richtofen and really none of them have blood vials on them. That's because they destroyed them in Classified. Some people have suggested that they go from Revelations to Classified to the Great War, but I don't think that's the case, because at the end of Revelations, you'll notice they still have 1 blood vial left. So I think the fact that they have no blood vials is the biggest indication that they are not from Revelations, but instead Blood of the Dead. They go from Blood of the Dead to here in Classified, and then wherever it is they go next. The Great War, I guess, as Nikolai has mentioned. They're here to enlist Ultimus's help in the fight of the Great War. Remember, Primus will fail, but Ultimus will prevail. And this Great War is most likely against Dr. Monty. After all, post-Revelations, Richtofen says in the Blood of the Dead ending that they need to defeat Monty. Now, here's the question. Will they be working together? Will Primus sit on the sidelines and let Ultimus do it? We don't actually know. There are a number of ways this could go, but I think we're going to be entering a brand new Great War. This won't be the same Great War as before. This will be a brand new battle between Ultimus and Primus, or maybe just Ultimus, or maybe just Primus, against Monty. That's what's actually going to be going on here, in my opinion. One of the things that is interesting about this cutscene is that it subverts our expectations. I thought it was just going to be Nikolai who travels to Classified, and it's not the case. It's actually the whole crew. You'll notice at the end of Blood of the Dead, they all leave through separate portals, so I thought, and if Nikolai's the key, and after all, Nikolai's portrait is in Classified, maybe it'll just be Nikolai, who then goes and frees the rest of the Ultimus crew and then sends them on their way. No, this actually sets up a situation in which Ultimus and Primus are able to meet face-to-face for the first time and maybe start working together as a team. In terms of where this story is going, to finally have this moment where both Primus and Ultimus are standing face-to-face as a group is actually really cool. we've had moments where we've had just one character with their Ultimus version, but now we have all of them together at once in the same room. And some people have even suggested maybe this will set up a grief mode, which we've hinted at that it might be coming back. There's also the big question of this Richtofen. This Richtofen, I do not believe is the Richtofen that died in Blood of the Dead. It just doesn't make sense for him to suddenly be back. If anything, I think he's actually the post-Revelations Richtofen, and it's just changed his outfit. So he's no longer wearing that tunic from the Great War. Instead, he's just wearing, I guess, his normal Richtofen clothes. The reason I say this is because the Blood of the Dead Richtofen should have died in Blood of the Dead. That just makes sense for the story. In addition to that, it also just seems convenient that post-Revelations Richtofen just changes his outfit. It makes our job as storytellers and story explainers, I guess you could say, easier. Sometimes it's best just to go with the simplest explanation. If we start conjuring up this crazy rabbit hole theory where they go on a whole new adventure to find a whole new Richtofen, one that we've never met before, well, suddenly you're expanding the story down to 5 or 6 extra maps and a whole new rabbit hole and trail to follow. And because we're coming near the conclusion, I just don't think there's time for that. So until we have a better explanation, I think it's best just to assume that this Richtofen is the post-Revelations Richtofen. One of the things I really like about this ending is that it actually works well from a narrative perspective. This ending isn't the ending to an Easter egg quest. No, this is just an ending to the map or something that happens on the side. In fact, you can argue that it really isn't the ending to the map because our characters are still playing in Classified. This happens independent of everything we do in Classified. Our characters are stuck in Hangar 4, and the only reason they're freed is because Primus from another dimension comes in and scoops them up. Nothing our characters do in Classified affects the outcome of this cutscene. Whether our characters died in Classified or whether our characters made it to round 150, 255, 115, whatever, they never do anything directly to trigger this cutscene. They are just on their own journey, independent. You have 2 stories happening at the same time, and it makes sense. That's how it should be. Why should Ultimus, when they're in Classified, have an effect on how their future versions of themselves get freed? They'll eventually become those versions and then get freed by Primus. So it kind of works from a narrative perspective that this Easter egg cutscene isn't triggered by a quest and isn't actually the cause of our characters that we play as in Classified. I always just found that interesting and a nice little touch to this ending cutscene. That, though, is a breakdown of the Classified ending. If you have any questions, give this video a like, maybe subscribe for more. I'm always covering the zombie storyline, so if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy the next one. Have a wonderful day, and bye.